Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and we are live at myworldpod.com. Of course, we couldn't do it without the Hall of Famer himself, the one and only, the greatest professional wrestler of all time, your friend and mine, Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff, how are you, man?
Oh, how you doing, Beach Bum? You down there in the Emerald Coast, as it's referred to, Redneck Riviera, a couple other terms. But glad that you've joined us today to break away from a little beach time. But Conrad, I just told Karen I might have just done the hardest leg workout I've done, and I can't remember years and years. So a little exhausted. But that's all right. We got a lot to talk about, a lot of chatter going on. Shout out. Hello, Coach Rosie. Good to see you this weekend. I see him in the comments. Raj. Yeah, man, Conrad, we've got us an all-star audience already here and a lot to catch up on. What an event. Got in from Phoenix yesterday, and Cody came up to me and said, well, Dad, what did you think? And I said, well, no, I got to hear what you thought. Anyway, he loves Swerve's interest. He showed that to me about 30 times. Anyway, Conrad, lots going on in the wrestling world. I'm sure that we are going to dive into, I'm curious to see what you're going to lead with today. I'll just say that. So opening day of the Prospect League, Springfield Lucky Horseshoes, Quincy Doggy Paddlers. Shout out to those guys. I'm pretty fired up this year. And Conrad, we've got some announcements to make and talk about in the Prospect League. So life is good, pal. We've had a boatload of rain here in this area. I think you have too. So springtime is in full effect. Everything's green. Everything's blooming. Oh, Connie, I'm already aggravated at Mr. Silva this morning. He's like, come on, guys. Like, dude, I can tell time. How about you, Conrad?
Yep, I know the time, and I know that right now it means that JR is out of surgery and in recovery. He had his big cancer surgery this morning. I thought last week he had teased that it was colon cancer when he posted on social media, but we did a live yesterday with JR just because he wanted to address his fans the day before his big surgery. I know his family's in town from Oklahoma, so they're there to support and Raphael Morphy is almost like his adopted son. So he's got a great support system down there. I haven't got a report as of this recording right now, Jeff, but we sure are praying for him. I mean, he has been such a big part of pro wrestling, not just for AEW or WWE, but WCW and the NWA and Watts. I mean, he's done it all, even for New Japan and Smoky Mountain. Like, Jim Ross really is kind of like as a wrestling fan, he's kind of like our Uncle Jim, don't you think, Jeff?
No doubt. And, as you are aware, I'll share with the My World listeners, I flew Phoenix, Salt Lake, back to Nashville yesterday. And I got the notification. So if you're listening on My World Pod, what is it? Like and subscribe, pal? But no. And so when I saw you were going live, I wasn't aware of that. And as you know, I tuned in and got to hear it. And hearing JR and all the different memories that kind of flooded upon me as he was grateful. And I couldn't be happier that when I heard his family was coming down and health challenges. I've been there, not personally, but family members. It rocks your whole world. Everything becomes so much more clear, candidly, on what really matters. So I always take that as a blessings, the ups and downs that I've gone through with my family members, that it gives you a perspective. But man, I just got to say that, thinking about JR and man, me and him go so far back. Oh boy, years and years and years, the ups and downs. The New Japan was one of my favorite experiences. And I was reminiscing. I got to see my old buddy Tanahashi was at the show the other day, and that brought back kind of the whole, we'll call it fight in those days. It was flips to fight to Triller, but man, putting that on and just, me and Jim's relationship, little rocky here and there, but man, joining this family, we'll call it the ad-free family, Conrad, different times that I've gotten connected with him. And of course at AEW, I get to hang out with him often. And so we share old stories and, me and him have both been around the block, him more than myself. He's got a few years on me, but man, yes, Uncle Jim is a kind of a appropriate, I guess you could say, working nickname. And look, the thing that I don't know, that I related to so many things, and hearing him, it was good to hear. Is like, and I think it hit a little bit of a news things about JR's not going to retire, and I just think, Jim, I'm right in line. Prayers up for you, buddy. When you retire, I think there's only one retired, and that's to heaven. So while we're here on earth, we are wired and we are built to work and serve. And so JR has served the wrestling fan candidly like none other, Connie.
Well said, man. All of our thoughts and prayers, of course, are with good old JR. Of course, over the weekend, the entire wrestling world was paying attention to Saturday night's main event, and then later, AEW Double or Nothing. I do want to ask you before we talk about the AEW pay per view. Did you get a chance to catch any of Saturday night's main event?
So I was flying Saturday, so I did. Man, I was a little bit aggravated, Connie. The Wi-Fi on the flight was a little in and out, but I did. The thing that I missed the Cena match because it was out, but I don't think it went very long. You know what, Conrad? We haven't even caught up on that because we've talked so much AEW. But Saturday night main event. I'm curious to see the cameos and everything with that. But Conrad, how many Saturday night main events are contracted? Are they doing 4 a year, 6 a year? But man, prime time. It's good for the industry. I will say this, when you kind of break down their programming model from premium live event to Saturday night's main event to Raw to SmackDown to NXT, that is a lot of 10 poles. A lot. That is a lot. But yeah, I got a chance to, I'm just trying to think what else was on there. But yes, I did, Conrad, but I was traveling Saturday night.
What do you think of Saturday night's main event, Jeff? What you saw?
The thing with Cena, I'm just curious to see where all that goes. He's in switching him heel and all the emotion that came out of that. And I'm not saying they didn't have the course charted, but whenever you switch a tip top guy, the old adage comes back into my brain that I was taught: you better have his not first opponent, but it's kind of like their first 3 or 4 if you're going to keep the momentum going. And so that's where I scratch my head. Where are they going with him? And I know Cody is back in the mix, and they kind of did some shucking and jiving. So are they going to switch him back? But, curiosity is what they want out of it. But are they going to switch him back babyface this quick? I don't know. I don't want to say they're in no man's land, but, man, they are awful close to it. I really think awful close to it. So they got to create a little bit more tailwind out of it, because they came out of it. What was that? So that'd been March, and we're just at the end of May, Conrad. Better pour some gas on that fire.
Yeah, you got to think this is going to be looked at almost like when Austin turned heel in 2001. And maybe this is an example, another reason why Vince McMahon never gave us the Sting Undertaker match. Because maybe after, because I do know that forever wrestling fans were diehard and adamant. They wanted to see John Cena turn heel. Well, I guess it's sort of be careful what you wish for, because now that it's happened, I don't think it's meeting expectations. And maybe some of that is because it was a last-minute decision. I still believe that. I don't think this was the plan all along. I mean, the merch wasn't really in sync. And why would you, have, a farewell tour, which is what this is. So let's imagine for a minute that this is not a pro wrestler, but this is a musical act. And so you're going to have a farewell tour for this beloved band, this iconic band that's had a decades-long string of hits. And now that they're going to go out and tour for their farewell tour, they refuse to play any of their classic hit songs. They just want you to hear their new stuff. That's not why fans are showing up to a farewell tour. They want to hear you play the hits, and to have John Cena be a bad guy, I feel like is going to be something that when people look back one day, they'll say, now, why did they do that? Because the match they're setting up, Jeff, is a tag match. It's going to be John Cena teaming with Logan Paul against Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes at Money in the Bank. Like, that's hard for me to imagine this was the plan all along.
Jay and Cody against Logan and Cena.
Yeah, that's Money in the Bank.
Oh, God. I I don't know why that just kind of tickles me, but it does, because it kind of feels the old happy days. Are they jumping the shark here? And your analogy was spot on. And look, I know it is a completely different era, and things have to evolve. Hell, AI is doing 90% of the world's work now. And
we'll see if we can get Jeff back in a minute. His internet's gone. While he's trying to fix his internet, we're going to tell you how you need to be sending money with our friends at Cash App. If you don't already have Cash App on your phone, what are you doing? Like, this is the easiest, fastest, best way, and most secure way to send money. I've used all the other apps, but I'm such a big believer in this. I got to highly recommend it for you. And listen, I understand that a few years ago, I felt like Cash App was for the kids because I was using the old fuddy-duddy apps. But now that I've actually tried Cash App and used it, it's my go-to. And I even wonder, hey, in the wrestling world, of everybody that we do a podcast with, who would be the slowest to pay you back? That was a discussion we had recently on a live. And I think with Cash App, it eliminates all the excuses now, because Cash App is fast, it's safe, and honestly, it's just a more personalized way to send money than any other app out there. There's no extra hoops to jump through. There's no extra stress. All the tools are right there to help you cash in. Plus, whenever you send money with Cash App, you actually feel safe. Think of it as like having your own personal bodyguard. What I mean is, if something seems sketchy and they think you might be sending money to a potential scammer, they're going to warn you and make you think twice before you press the send button. It really is like a personal bodyguard for your cash. You can also spice up your payments with custom text, stamps, and backgrounds, because why should paying for your friend to have brunch be so boring? And if for some insane reason you don't already have Cash App, I want you to go download it from your phone's app store, sign in, and then enter the code MyWorld in your profile. And then when you send $5 to a friend, they're going to send you $10 just for getting started. I know that sounds like free money, so let me repeat myself. For a limited time only, new Cash App users can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash. For real, there's no catch here. Just go download the Cash App and sign up. Our exclusive referral code, MyWorld, in your profile, and then send $5 to a friend within 14 days. You'll get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App. We are fired up to be live here on a Monday, or I guess it's a Tuesday. It feels like a Monday for everybody, though. We've got a live studio audience and hope that you guys have clicked the subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you won't miss us the next time we're live. But, Jeff, before you had an internet problem, we were talking a little bit about the tag match that's coming at the next pay-per-view, and you got tickled.
And I don't know why, but this is definitely a dated reference. It kind of feels like jumping the shark a little early. Yeah, Conrad, so that is a little bit news to me, so I hadn't been completely on top of it. But your analogy about playing the hits, to me, is spot on. And look, we obviously aren't sitting behind the desk and I know creative subjective, and there's so many different moving parts. But the fundamental of all this, and I can remember going back to way back when, and I'll call it kind of the early 90s, when Lawler was coming up to the WWE, or he was back and forth. He was announcing. So he was a heel announcer and a baby face on TV. And then he would go back and forth between Texas, there were times that Lawler was just like, man, let me just switch heel completely. And him and my old man had kind of headbutting sessions, because he was like, Jerry, the people here in this territory, and look, I understand. He understood that Texas is an audience. Obviously, the much bigger audience is the Monday Night Raw, and being the heel color commentator, he said, but as far as it goes around here, people don't want to see you as a heel. They just don't. You're the legendary babyface. You've climbed all mountains. They want to see you pull the strap down. They want to see you, let me back up. They want to see you get in the ring, entertain us, get the shit beat out of you for about 15 or 20 minutes, pull the strap down, knock people all over the place, give the pile driver 1, 2, 3. In what you just said, Conrad, playing the hits. And so I do think there is a real fundamental principle here that I'm sure the people at TKO, and I'm sure, in the writer's room and the creative process and and if you're saying it's a spur of the moment, yeah, let's switch John heel. But it goes back to, hey guys, this is exactly why Vince didn't want to do it. There is a very quick shelf life. And when it runs out, are we really, truly, at the end of the day, going to have more black ink than red? I'm going to say no, Conrad, just what you said, the merch and all that. But look, this tag match, who's going to benefit coming out of it? Let me ask you that, Conrad. Out of those 4 guys, will Logan? No. Cena? No. Cody? No. Jay? No. Okay. I think I answered the question before I asked it. What's your thoughts on the tag, though, Conrad? Like, what's that for? A place on the card, placeholder?
I think it's, hey, we're contractually obligated to deliver a PLE.
Yeah, I get that.
It's a placeholder. It gets us to the next show. And
it's going to sell in LA. It will.
It does feel like Helicopter Rock is to blame for this. Now maybe we're reading too much into that. But The Rock told the story on Pat McAfee of the John Cena turn. He wanted Cody to turn. Clearly, Rock wanted to be involved in an angle. They pitched, hey, what if Cena did it? That's what we see. I do wonder if the reason Vince never turned Cena is because he learned maybe what not to do with Austin. I mean, even when he brought Hogan back the following year. So as a reminder, Austin turns heel in 2001, just after WCW goes down, just a week later. So with no competition, he does the unthinkable, and he turns Austin heel. I think Austin really wanted to do that too, and Vince acquiesced to that. And the result was the business was way down. So they tried to do the invasion angle once they realized that, hey, the Austin heel turn wasn't working. That didn't really work. So in February of 2002, after they blow off the invasion angle in November of 2001, a few months later, they say, well, hey, let's just try bringing back the NWO for No Way Out, that February pay-per-view. And fans didn't really want to boo Hulk Hogan. Like, they had last seen Hulk Hogan in the WWF as a babyface. And I know that we're not going to pretend the NWO didn't happen, but I think WWF fans at a WWF event, they wanted to celebrate the nostalgia of the red and yellow that was apparent at WrestleMania 18. So it just feels like Vince had seen the writing on the wall that, hey, this John Cena heel turn, it's not going to be what everybody wants it to be. And if it really is the farewell tour, I think when it's all said and done, people are going to think about this as a misstep.
Yeah, well, and just kind of to my point that Vince's personal experiences with the Austin in 2000, 01, 02, whatever it may be, I'm talking about my old man, we'll call it early 90s. And I'm sure, wasn't in the room, but you go back into any territory and we'll call it the legendary babyface, whether it's Fritz or Bill Watts or Dusty Rhodes or whoever it may be, any of the 22 territories or whatever. There comes a point where the legacy babyface, and like you said, the legacy bands, like AC/DC just played here in Nashville at the stadium. I know they had a crazy rainstorm, but I'm sure they didn't really close with new material or any of these guys. The Stones don't kind of break out new. They want to see which you said it, shit, Conrad. Play the hits, man. Play the freaking hits. And they're in so many ways. You look at John's persona. We're in, it depends on what you believe in. Every 7 years, a kind of a turnover of fandom. I mean, John, here we are in 2025. So I think John was at his peak more than 7 years ago. So it could be a whole new generation of fans that, anyhow. Oh, Connie, we could talk on this forever, but creative is subjective, but it just feels like what you said, a misstep. You're on it today, Conrad. That beach, I think that salt water in the air, you're just clear-headed today. Is that what it is?
Well, I wish that maybe somebody had spent some time at the beach before they brought The Rock back to New Orleans. I think when The Rock did the whole heel turn thing, everybody expected that to be another major piece of The Rock in WWE. And then we see The Rock come back and announce in New Orleans that, he wanted it to be special. WrestleMania is coming back, and they even had a Lil Wayne version of the Rock entrance theme, and he did a press conference after about how important New Orleans was to WWE. And Jeff, last week, WWE announced that WrestleMania is not in freaking New Orleans. After they just announced it, they rolled out the graphics, they held a press conference with the biggest movie star in the world, and then last week they said, never mind. And I don't know that it's been officially announced yet, but clearly the success in Las Vegas this year made them change their mind, which is an excellent idea. I'm all for it. But boy, if you're one of those fans in New Orleans, WWE right now feels a little ready, shoot, aim with this business. What'd you make of this? I mean, all I could think when I saw that, Jeff, was I know that they did their best to put lipstick on a pig, and they had Triple H come out and do a video explaining that they're going to be there in the future, and it's going to be the home of Money in the Bank. And I get all that. I get it. But Lord have mercy. If that announcement would have happened for AEW, boy, the internet would have just buried them, gut and quartered them. But when WWE does it, I don't know it's met with the same level of vitriol, but have you ever even heard of this? WrestleMania being, I know that WrestleMania 7 was announced as being in the LA Coliseum, and they moved it to the arena. But this is a whole nother market, Jeff. This isn't just a venue change, right?
I've got an idea, Conrad.
Okay.
You're going to have to help me out.
Okay.
Big time. You're a finance guy through and through. Can you do your best elevator pitch version of how quarterly Wall Street, how a company literally makes and breaks all of their decisions on kind of 90-day increments or 120-day increments? That's really what they focus on. Can you elaborate on that just a little bit, and I'll turn it into wrestling?
Yeah, I mean, we have earnings calls. Wrestling fans are at least familiar with those, and you usually see those once a quarter, and they're going to talk about what the revenues were and the profit was for Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and they're doing that because just making that announcement and sort of touting your success is either going to meet or exceed or fall short of expectations. So if a lot of analysts are predicting that a stock is, got a forecast that it's going to be somewhat successful, but maybe not hugely successful, they'll rate it and they'll give a rating and a recommendation. And so a lot of these media calls are really to let the analysts out there who are making stock recommendations communicate stronger messaging to them, so they'll pass it on to their audience, so their book of business. Hey, we recommend this. This is a strong buy, that sort of thing. So it's important to meet and exceed expectations. But from what I've learned from watching WWE, sometimes you don't want to exceed those expectations too much, because if your stock enjoys too much success, well, that's going to bring some attention that maybe you don't want. And if your stock doesn't meet expectations, well, maybe that will bring some attention that you don't want. So it's interesting, a company like WWE, which does all the hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue last year, I think they reported like a $6 million profit last year. So there's a lot of political gamesmanship when it comes to stock values and balance sheets, to say the least.
And so I think at the end of the day, I think, look, and you can talk to different promoters through the end of time. I mean, going back territory, you can look at Vince McMahon in the 80s, in the 90s, then when he went public. But how much did he really go public? At the end of the day, who is your audience? And to me, it is clear that the Endeavor's number one priority is on a quarterly basis, are they going to meet their numbers? And they have to play that political gamesmanship number every 90 days, and it's a little ebb and flow. We got to show growth, but not too much growth. We got to do this. Well, I think in their forecast, and they're sitting the high level finance guys, oh boy, Vegas was a freaking Grand Slam winner. Do we really want to come next year and come out with the New Orleans numbers? Because I'm assuming, Conrad, site fees alone put Vegas way out in front, maybe of everybody, except maybe the Saudi folks. But so I just think it's very interesting that you can just. I think we are looking at every turn, at every corner, at a completely new WWE. And I'm not just talking about The Rock and the Triple H and that situation. I think we're talking quarterly ticket prices, events, site fees, decision after decision after decision. And I don't say this out of a ha-ha moment or a jab or whatever it may be. But even to us talking about the Cena turn, like Vince believed in his heart of hearts that he knew what was best that the wrestling audience wanted. He always put, yes, his decision above. So I'm not disputing that. But at the end of the day, he's not making a decision based on what he personally likes. He was doing what he believed was best for the audience. I think TKO is doing absolutely every decision at every turn what's best for Wall Street. I think that's the difference. I think that's the new TKO mindset. And I'm not sure in the long game where all that goes. I really don't. I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just not real sure where all that goes.
Jeff, it's funny you say that. I was just reading Guy Evans' fabulous new book, Beyond Nitro. I highly recommend everyone check it out. I think Guy is perhaps one of maybe the best detail-oriented wrestling writer, publisher in the space.
What a shout out.
Because he goes into such granular detail, Jeff, about the financial piece of WCW and some real analysis on the numbers and how perhaps the internet wrestling community has been fed a line of bull a time or two. But he does reference conversations and interviews and even your dad's book where he talked about those regular calls that your dad used to have with Vince McMahon on the weekends.
Wow.
And of course, there were discussions about, Vince was being in competition with Turner. And we all know the narrative, billionaire Ted, here's this billionaire he's got to compete with and all this. But I'm saying all that to say your dad indicated in his book when he would have a conversation with Vince, Vince was not concerned at all about WCW winning in the end. Sure, they may have a better show here and there. They may have a better month, a better quarter, a better year. But Vince, according to your dad, was convinced that in the end he would win because a corporation couldn't run wrestling. That corporate wrestling would not work. That corporate wrestling was doomed to fail. Your dad said that Vince believed he had the institutional knowledge to make a wrestling business successful that a corporation with an org chart and that sort of thing simply would not. And I've heard you say before, corporate wrestling doesn't work. And I don't know that all of that really clicked until just now, because I'm realizing that you probably heard that from your dad.
Oh boy.
And he maybe heard that from Vince. Now I'm sure he knew it, but there is a difference. And the love and respect I had for your dad, but there is a difference with being the most successful territory promoter and being the global phenomenon
visionary
pirate leading the ship of Vince McMahon. So I'm saying, I think your dad maybe thought corporate wrestling doesn't work on my regional level. But then when he saw Vince McMahon say corporate wrestling doesn't work on a global level, I have a feeling he probably instilled that in you, because I've heard you say that, but it wasn't until you went on to your little rant here about TKO making decisions that are best for Wall Street that it really clicked. You're basically saying what your dad said to you, which he heard from Vince McMahon. Corporate wrestling doesn't work, right?
And look, we're all a sum total of our experiences, but having unique conversations with a Toby Keith, and not as a buddy, but as man, I would pick his brain, because you got to understand, the music business, the wrestling business, it's not all the same, but it generally boils down to creativity. At the end of the day, you've got to be able to write a great song. You're never, ever, ever going to be successful individually long term, like you just said, long term, if you can't sit down and write a song, because you can write a song, it can be a hit in this decade and then come back with a new artist and they're going to put their new spin on it, be a hit this decade, and then the following decade, oh shit, all of a turn, it's turned into a classic. But anyway, the creativity part of our industry of boiling it right down is creating with said talent, with character, persona, and then you've got to write the right stories. And then just, is it the singer or the songwriter that makes a number one hit? Well, candidly, it takes both to really make that classic long term. And at the end of the day, we're seeing it play out before our very eyes. Are they really concerned about John Cena's longevity? No, I know he's on retirement. Are they concerned about Rock? Are they concerned about Cody? Are they concerned about Jey Uso? No. They want it right here, right now. And Vince was from the mindset. My old man was from the mindset. All of that, when you just take out of the whole equation the creativity of the essence of the industry, and you get into, hey, I'm not going to do what's best for character or storyline or whatever it may be. I got to make my money in the next 90 days. It's never going to work. And, I think back on my personal career, and for off and on for years, my old man, why was he so against me going to WCW 91-ish, 92-ish, all this? And look, I'd been wrestling 4 or 5 years. Maybe I wasn't ready talent wise, but maybe in the back of his mind, he also knew, you know what? They're not promoters over there. They're not creative guys. They're in a corporate setting, and nothing against whoever the booker was at the time, but hey, Vince is the guy that's going to create the talent. Boy, he was right. So yes, Conrad, I think at the end of the day, in so many ways, and I'm going to bring it back to kind of a personal point of view, is just where AEW sits right now, a privately held company that wrestling is first, because Wall Street is first at TKO. And when you get right down to talent, NXT, all of it. I mean, you look at all the decisions being made across the board on Raw, on SmackDown, on NXT, on premium live events, on Saturday Night Main Event. It has something to do with the next 90 days Wall Street report. And I don't think ultimately a creative business can succeed in that manner. And it's going to be a hard lesson. Let me ask you this, Conrad. What's TKO's exit strategy?
I don't think they have one. Do you think they do?
I mean, it's something that we could probably do a whole podcast or a whole round table. Let's get JR. Let's get Shivani. Let's get Eric. Hell, I'd love your insight, because at the end of the day, they're finance guys. And I just think there would be some type of exit strategy, because they're all going to go home with more money in their pockets than you can imagine. They're not worried about WrestleMania 50. They're just not. It's that simple. And, love him or hate him or whatever you want to think about Vince, that is what at the core of what he did. And I'm kind of tying this all the way back to JR. JR ain't going to retire because it's in his blood. Me and you have talked about that, Conrad. It's who he is. And so kind of lifers in this business, we all have we're half-ass crazy, the good, the bad, the ups, the downs, the quirks, the being eccentric from time to time, and all that. But yeah, Conrad, what a interesting topic we dove into. But You got Logan Paul and Cena and Cody and Jay. That's going to be a hell of a tag, Conrad.
I don't know why you're laughing at that.
I guess I just wasn't aware, and it's going to sell tickets locally, no doubt, and it's going to make for I almost said filler. It's going to make for good content because I guess money, at the end of the day, Money in the Bank, the 2 Money in the Bank matches is the calling card for that. It just feels we're putting Cena in a tag, and Cody's come back.
It's clearly setting up the next pay-per-view, which will be a rematch with Uso and Logan will ultimately win it, and it'll be a rematch with Cody and Cena. Like in a different era, they would do this tag match on Saturday night's Main Event and then build to the pay-per-view. But since we don't have pay-per-views anymore, now it's, hey, is this content on NBC and Peacock, or is it just on Peacock? I mean, that's the only differentiator now. Right?
And look, at the end of the day, hell, I don't want this to come across. Look at the amount of money they are making. They're money. I mean, unprecedented profits. Well, depends on what report you read, but I mean, they are absolutely killing it. So I'm not faulting that. I'm going back to, we both kind of arrived at that. What's it look like long term? And that's where I went with, what's the ultimate exit strategy of those guys? I don't know.
Well, we do know that WWE is certainly expanding. We know that we are just about a week and change away from Money in the Bank, and that's going to be the evening show. But in the afternoon, the matinee is When Worlds Collide. So we're going to have AAA and TNA and WWE together on a Los Angeles pay-per-view. As you and I are recording this, it is, and we're live now at myworldpod.com. So go hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications bell so you won't miss us the next time we're live. But last night was the Memorial Day edition of Monday Night Raw. And during the course of that night, they had Chad Gable in a 3-way, I think with Dragon Lee and Pentagon. And we had El Hijo de Vikingo ringside. He got involved and hit Chad Gable in the head. And then they teased a big match graphic. And they revealed that El Hijo de Vikingo is going to be wrestling Chad Gable for the AAA World title at Worlds Collide. Now that's Saturday, June 7th at 3 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be a fantastic match, and I can't wait to see it. Now, the trouble with this is, as we're speaking right now, neither Chad Gable nor Vikingo is the AAA champion. That's Alberto Del Rio. Alberto Del Rio's got a big match this weekend for the title with El Hijo de Vikingo in just 4 short days. And I, for one, am on the edge of my seat about what may or may not happen with the world title here, Jeff. What say you?
Oh, my gosh, Conrad. We have just kind of fallen off into this, but it's we ain't swimming upstream. I think we're coasting downstream. It's to our point. They don't give 2 shits what's advertised in AAA. They're going to get out the match they want to get out. Come on, Conrad. I mean,
show the Chad Gable graphic again, Silva. This is one of the all-time great graphics.
There it is.
For the AAA Mega Championship. Notice neither guy's got the belt in the photo because neither one has it yet. But, Lord, we sure are hoping something changes. And in the next 10 days, somehow, we're going to will this into, there's an opportunity right there. That fella on the right's got the belt. If only, that's the guy from the, wait a minute. Perhaps this is why Tom Segura goes on his podcast and says that the only people who watch wrestling are the R word.
Conrad, is where was the first Royal Rumble at? No, I mean, where was the first Intercontinental title match at? Wasn't it
Rio de Janeiro, Brazil? Yes.
Did you know El Hijo Vikingo and Alberto Patron is actually taking place this weekend in Rio de Janeiro. I'm not kidding. That's where the change is happening. I like you said, setting on. Look, you can go to Triller TV right now, and I guarantee it's going to say Rio de Janeiro. Might be, could be, will be a title change. Connie, I mean, but we're having
process how silly this is. Like, if they really wanted to push the title fight, Vikingo was there last night. Why didn't you just have him bring the belt with him? Oh, is it because he hasn't won it yet? And he knows he hasn't won it yet? I'm just saying, this is what happened when the left hand doesn't tell the right hand what's going on. And as a wise old man once said, corporate wrestling doesn't work.
Well, hey, let me ask you this. Do you think it's a mistake, or they don't give two shits about it? In my opinion, that's what I think. It ain't no mistake. They know what they're doing.
I think the people who put the graphic together said, how many people even know that or care? What does it matter?
Yeah.
Because they think of the potential people who are watching Monday Night Raw versus the existing AAA audience. But to your dad's point, that breaks a cardinal rule in wrestling, and they did it willfully and intentionally because they don't care about wrestling. They care about WWE. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that is the difference.
Here's what's kind of bizarre, but look, and I get it. There's all sides to this, and me and you both could be in the room where the decision makers made the decision, but at the very core of it, in that, Conrad, can you tell me where was the first Worlds Collide? LA, correct? Yep. And it was AAA and Conan and Jake and all this, but they sold out Sports Arena with Lucha Libre fans, AAA fans. And so I cannot wrap my head around why they willingly are shitting on the core of the Forum show. The core fan base of the Forum show, hypothetically, is the AAA fan base. Is it that one of the reasons? I get it. They bought the IP, but boy, this is clearly telling us, yeah, they only bought it for the IP. They don't care about nothing else. But that is a little surprising to me that they have such a disdain or total lack of, they could care less. And I get that in a way that, hey, man, they have to make the 90-day numbers, period. So the quicker they can get Gable, their guy, and El Hijo, Vikingo, their soon-to-be guy or their already guy, quicker they can get them advertised, the more awareness. But boy, I mean,
Jeff, I don't mean to blow your socks off with this, but it's the NWA from 1998 warmed over. Because they wanted to make you the NWA champion, but they couldn't do that. So they just created this other Fugazi belt, the North American champion, and gave it to you. But what's the fucking difference? Like, what's the difference? They're treating this AAA opportunity just with the same care that they treated the NWA in 1998.
Well, that worked out very successful. There's a hell of a meme to this day where Austin comes down and struts me, and I always see when they put it online, they're putting over Austin strut, and then you'll kind of see in the comments, and these are the ones that kind of get text to me or DM to me, hey, who's the guy that ran across the ring running? And oh my God, I cannot believe I've just drawn a blank. Who was in the ring with me that night? Oh my gosh. Somebody in the comments let me know who that is. But Austin stuns me and struts. But the NWA members that were
Howard Brody, maybe?
Howard Brody and one other guy.
Dennis Carluzzo.
God, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Carluzzo's the guy that runs from Austin. But yeah. Oh God, that's a good analogy. But that NWA thing worked out really well.
Yeah, listen, I know it feels like we're dumping on WWE. We are not. Jeff and I are observing this is the greatest wrestling run that a company has been on ever. When you're talking about delivering top-line revenues, it's unbelievable. However, we can't act like announcing you're bringing a show to the town and then saying, psych, never mind, 2 months later. Or then posting, check out our world title fight in 10 days for the title. I know neither guy's the champion yet, but don't worry. We got a good idea with what's going down this weekend. It feels a little silly, and it's almost like having access to better sex and just not doing it. Well, Blue Chew can help you out. Blue Chew Max has arrived, and we're going to report the best quarter we ever had. Our revenues and our erections are at an all-time high. Our price per head on our merchandise, like price per head, that's a slippery slope. I need to move on. Hey, Blue Chew Max has combined Viagra and Cialis into one chewable. It's going to have you strutting like you were Steve Austin right after you squashed Jeff Jarrett and the NWA, deader than Kelsey's nuts. And Carluzzo is going to be right there in the corner, tag teaming with Howard Brody on Blue Chew Max, saying, "Can you believe we're on TV?" Those guys were probably thrilled just to be on TV, but in reality, Vince was in the back with a real homegrown, old-fashioned Blue Chew Max hard-on, saying, "Ha ha ha!" And they let me do it to him. Can you believe it? Ha ha ha! Guys, you can be ready whenever she or the NWA needs it, and you can get your first month of Blue Chew free. Great sex is just a few clicks away, probably further away than New Orleans getting to WrestleMania, but that's a story for another time. Go sign up right now at BlueChew.com, and we'll put the belt on you. I know the match isn't for another 4 or 5 days, but you're going to feel like a champion when you strap this 8 pounds of gold around your waist. It's flesh-colored, but don't worry about that. Put it in your mouth. The swelling will go down. You consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within a few days, and that's when Vikingo's going to be the world champ in a few fucking days. Blue Chew's tablets are made here in the USA, just like AAA is now. It's prepared and shipped directly to your door. And the best part, it's all online. Just like the memes about Vikingo wrestling for a belt that he ain't even won yet. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversation, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. And if you're at Ticketmaster in New Orleans, you can get out of line. There's no reason to stand there anymore. Make your life easier by getting harder and discover your options at BlueChew.com. We've got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use the promo code MyWorld. Just pay $5 shipping. That's promo code MyWorld. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast.
You didn't get Alberto in there. You got a line for Alberto. He needs some Blue Chew as well because he's mighty limp these days.
I don't think Alberto is even going to be at Worlds Collide or Money in the Bank, if I had to guess. What do you think? You think Alberto's going to win the Royal Rumble next year, maybe?
Oh,
is that in the cards, Jeff?
Yes, Blue Chew.
Huh?
I said if he has some Blue Chew, he will. Oh, mercy.
Listen.
Good Lord.
We've had a lot of fun today, and we're still going to talk about the other big news because there is some big news. Something that happened over the weekend that I wanted to get on your radar. It was Sunday, head-to-head with the AEW pay-per-view was the NXT show, Battleground, and this is perhaps wrestling history because now the TNA World Champion is WWE contracted wrestler Trick Williams. I don't know if we believed in Joe Hendry, but apparently they don't anymore because Trick Williams is the new champ. This is a big deal, Jeff. I mean, I know we saw this once before where a WWE contracted wrestler beat a WCW contracted wrestler to become the ECW World Champion. That was Taz and Mike Awesome. But Trick Williams beating Joe Hendry, I'm a big Trick fan. I'm for this. I love him as a talent and know he's got a huge upside. But this is your old brand. Did you ever see the day that a WWE wrestler would be the champion of the promotion you started?
Did you see the photo, which I bet 4 or 5 in my DM of this photo of none other than Shawn Michaels holding the TNA title.
Yes.
That's out there. But that in a way, that summed up quite a bit. One way or another, Double J got Shawn Michaels holding that belt. It only took no, I'm kidding. Only took
We're
20.
probably going to go to a graphic now. Jeff doesn't have good internet, so we'll throw a graphic up and we'll have Jeff turn his video off. We'll try to finish this show with audio only. Um, Jeff, I know you were cutting out a little bit there. I do want to get your take on Trick Williams being the new TNA champion. And I also want to ask about Alistar Black's comments. He's back in WWE. He says, I was in that system for 8 years, and it's a completely different system than anything else. Nothing is like WWE. No locker room I've ever been in. It just felt like this is what it's supposed to be for me, you know? I was really excited to be back, of course. And like I said, initially it's a little bit anxiety driven. But then once you walk around and you get a feel of everything, you'll say to yourself, hey, man, you know all these people, you know all this, and everybody's just going around doing what they always do, and everything is just right. It works. Everything runs smoothly. I mean, listen, I don't know what we expect Alistar Black to say, you know, when he's asked about returning to WWE. I feel like he did his best to give an answer there, but I mean, the reality is it feels like, you know, he just wanted to be back in WWE. We know his wife works with WWE, and he's happy to be back. Is that the long and the short of it? Is that the whole story here, Jeff, or is there more to it?
God, I just want to make sure before I dive off into it, I am showing full power. Am I still a little wobbly on my feet, or is it powerful?
It's pretty bad, but we're going to power through. I mean, do you have an opinion about Alistar Black or no?
Yeah, a hell of a talent. And I'll say this with all diplomacy: when you arrive on the scene of any locker room, and I'll cachet it as not arriving at the promotion, but it's a locker room, you better say all the right things. And it is new, and it is invigorating. And on top of it, his wife is there, and so he has had some success there. And so, as our old friend Bruce used to say, a fresh coat of paint. He's got more than a fresh coat of paint. I wish him well. I think he will do well. But look, once the honeymoon period's over and the newness wears off and the grind sets in, you know, then and only then will he find out, you know, just where everything, let the dust settle. But I wish him well. And again, you know, his wife, you know, going way back, starting at TNA, to see her succeed on this level is heartwarming. And I wish, I do. I wish nothing but the best. But the real work for Alistar will be in the next, I don't know, 12 months. Same with Rusev. Same with anybody when we'll call it the grass ain't always greener, or is the grass greener? Only time will tell for both those guys.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of both of those guys, and I do feel like, you know, tribalism is such a real thing in wrestling. But the reality is sometimes the timing's not right.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a guy who's had multiple stints in WCW, multiple stints in the WWF, hell, multiple stints in TNA, a company you owned. Sometimes it's just the timing. It doesn't mean necessarily that you're adversarial with someone or I mean, but the whole never say never in wrestling, that's true. I mean, that's a real life situation. I, for one, don't take Alistar's comments to be negative, but I know that a lot of AEW diehards are going to, but I don't think you should, right?
Well, what the hell is he supposed to say when he's returning to
right?
And I'm not saying that he's saying it just for that reason at all. It is, you know, you just said timing, and Conrad, I think you're the one who sent me that about Mr. Anderson. Yeah. About the timing that he thought he had you know, he was going to get the world title. Man, Mr. Anderson, former world heavyweight champion, I think that puts a completely different pivot. Now, I'm not going to say it's super successful or unsuccessful or that, but it would have been a completely altered his history for sure. Same with myself. You know, had me and Brian not walked out, you know, we both took things personally, and there were a different set of circumstances. And then, you know, my 1 year stint at WCW and how they looked at it and going back, timing is that old saying, timing really is everything in this business. And so again, that's why I say I wish him luck, that there comes a time, and, you know, we've kind of hit on it a couple of different ways in this scenario. You know, Austin wanting to switch heel, and whether Vince wanted it or just kind of placated Austin, or maybe a little bit of the both. Maybe in hindsight, they both would have said, you know, Steve, why don't you go home for 6, 9, 12 months? Let me get 3 or 4 heels red hot for you, because they're not at your level. They're not going to get hot while you're around. You know, that was my old man's kind of mindset dating back to the mid 80s. Hey, Lawler, the best thing is take a little bit of a break. Yeah, we're going to go down in business, but you got to plow that ground. We got to get some heels hot and ready. I mean, the angle that broke me into the business was just that. Lawler, take time off. We're going to have to retool things, quote unquote. They're sick of seeing you, or blah, blah, whatever it is. Well, all of a sudden, Dundee and Landale got over, heels, heel heat. They beat up a young referee. His dad's the promoter, grandfather promoter. Boom, Lawler comes out, sells out. I mean, it's just kind of the nature and the ebb and flow of the business that, you know, it's a tough road, but guys need more than a fresh coat of paint. And that truly is the subjective but true nature of our business.
I'm of the opinion that Vince thought, or Austin probably thought, he had the entire year 2000 to do that, he being Vince. Because Austin's last match in 1999 is November 2nd, as they were getting ready to go to Survivor Series. And he doesn't come back until October of 2000 as far as in-ring competition.
Wow.
So they had a whole year there to make top heels. But when Austin comes back, it's, as I said, October of 2000. And by April of 01, Austin's already like, we got to switch it to heel. I mean, after only being back in the ring 6 months. So clearly he felt strongly. It is going to be something we'll discuss and debate. Over the weekend, Tony Khan put on another fabulous pay-per-view. It was a long one, I will say that. It went like 5.5 hours, but you got more than your money's worth, which is the AEW way for Double or Nothing. It was an interesting thing, though, because it really is kind of like a unofficial anniversary show. I know this one was in Glendale, Arizona, but the very first one was 6 years ago this past weekend. Can't lie. Worst weekend of my life, StarCast 2 in Las Vegas. We went big, and we had Caesar's Palace taken over, and WWE pulled The Undertaker, and then Ric Flair went into the hospital, and Jericho wasn't able to make it. So I had multiple cancellations, which were less than ideal, and it was a stressful weekend for me. But what a huge moment. 2019. It was the last something to wrestle with Bruce Pritchard, because he had just been signed to go back, and that was my last chance to go do a live show with Bruce.
That's right.
A bittersweet weekend, a big weekend, a lot of fun. And this past weekend was the 6-year anniversary. And of course, Tony Khan does a post-match pay-per-view presser, and he was asked about the head-to-head counter programming that WWE has been doing recently. And he says, it's pretty consistent. I'd say it's the most consistent event head-to-head scheduling I've seen since Jim Crockett Promotions. So a lot of scheduling that went that way. I can tell you this will go a lot differently than that did. I appreciated Tony Khan's response. Of course, the inference was, hey, JCP tried to go head-to-head with Vince, and they lost and went out of business and had to sell to Ted Turner. That's not going to happen. Tony Khan's not going to run out of money and throw in the towel. But what do you make of the counter programming by WWE these days? It does feel intentional, but it also, as much as Tony may be frustrated by that, on some level, it's kind of complimentary, isn't it?
Oh, at the very, very top of it, if you don't digest this and absorb it and really think it through and say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the number one reason it's done is because it is the biggest competition. It goes without saying. And I'll say this, and I don't even want to say it's a bold statement, but AEW to WWE is much bigger competition than Jim Crockett was to WWF at the time. I truly believe that in multiple scenarios, and just when you really look at that battle, if you will, the vision, because Vince had the vision of national and went national and thought national. And in a lot of ways, Crockett was still coming at it from a territorial mindset that just was moving chess pieces. So I do. I think it's by design. And I'm also going to say that business is business. And we've really run a thread here today, Conrad. I hope the My World listeners have enjoyed this, because I have, because kind of the thread goes back to it's just business. This is nothing personal against AEW whatsoever. It may feel personal. I think some fans may take it personal, but at the end of the day, it is in TKO / the 90-day report's best interest to not just minimize, but completely obliterate any kind of competition. Because if you're a wrestling fan, TKO wants you buying their stuff, consuming their stuff, purchasing their stuff, and everything that goes with it, because that's how they can make the most money. And that's what it's about. They are not worried, quote unquote, about the wrestling business. They're worried about their 90-day stock report. End all, be all. Next question, because that one's question's answered. But it is, I would expect nothing less. It's of the mindset, and that's where from Ari Emanuel on down, their mindset is be the only game in town, period. I just think that they don't quite know the history of the wrestling industry. And yes, it is a niche, and that's, there's a reason it's a niche. You better know the ins and outs of this industry, and it all starts, at the end of the day, it all starts with the talent.
We're live here with Jeff, so if you guys have a question, we want you to keep those coming. Rajiv says, does not having a match for the actual championship on a PLE make that event feel less than? I'm curious about Jeff's takes on this, since Double or Nothing and now Money in the Bank won't have one. Of course, the Money in the Bank match is going to have Jey Uso and John Cena in a tag match. So the men's world title, no matter which belt you're following, is going to be on the line. And of course, we know on the AEW side of things, Jon Moxley was involved in the Anarchy in the Arena match. So we did have our main event, which determines who gets a shot for that belt. But that belt was not defended on the pay-per-view. So this is just a philosophy question, I guess, in general, Jeff. I know that you always are quick to remind us that, so creative is subjective. But when you think about putting together a big time wrestling card, at any point in history, do you feel like to make it feel special or larger than life, it needs to have the title match on the line? I think about one of those iconic SummerSlams. You had Hulk Hogan teaming with Brutus the Barber Beefcake. I mean, so that was a tag match main event, and I know they did that a lot at SummerSlam, but where do you land on that? Does the title need to be online or on the line for it to feel like a premium live event, or can it still feel special without a championship fight?
Well, what's special? What's premium? What do you denote as the big one? For us, I believe Globe Life is going to be the big one. And I think the product of our environment, the consequences of the evolution of the business, and in AEW we have obviously Dynamite and Collision, and then I mean, it goes without saying, 9 or 10 big events, and this is the event that we just had, and Anarchy in the Arena, I personally believe was the calling card, but it's the event before all the Globe Life and All In. And so how do you have, and I know it's 5-6 weeks apart, but I think just by the nature of creative booking, it's impossible. So does it feel less than? It doesn't have to. I think the simple answer, it doesn't have to. And I think Anarchy in the Arena over the last couple of years, and Conrad, and I love doing this month, it was called the buy-in or 0 hour, the pre-show, whatever you want to call it. But when we get a chance to talk for 90 minutes off and on about what's coming up, and shout out Alex Marvez and the research, and I dive into all that, and we had Tony Storm in a title match. We had the tag titles, and yes, Moxley's title wasn't on the line, and I get that. But when you look at the history of this event, how things kind of kicked off in a lot of ways, and everything kind of coming out party, and the people who debuted and made their surprise appearance there. But at the end of the day, Anarchy in the Arena is almost synonymous with that event now. And you just made a great reference to SummerSlam, the Mega Powers coming too. So I don't think that for WWE, WrestleMania, for us All In, I think on both of those events, you have to have the prize, back in the Russo days, the prop, if you will, but it's the main prop, but the prize for all the marbles. You got to put the most important piece of storyline material, if you will. You got to put the belt on the line in the biggest events of the year. Other than that, man, it's subjective, and you got to get creative, and the timing and the ins and outs. It's something that I can argue both ways. I just think the only one that you have to have, you don't have to because you can come up with something creative, but you have to have the world title on the line in your biggest events of the year, or I think you are going to have the feeling of lesser than. I didn't feel Double or Nothing this year was lesser than because you didn't have the title matches.
We want to hear your questions. If you got one for Jeff, keep them coming. But I'll tell you what, there's no question when Jeff is looking to fuel up and he wants good eating fast, look no further than Factor. We want to make sure that this is your best season yet with nutritious 2-minute meals from Factor. And eating well has never been this easy. You just heat up and enjoy. It gives you more time to do what you want, especially this time of year. We all want to spend less time cooking and prepping indoors. We want to spend less time enjoying the outdoors, enjoying the sun, the fun, the boating, the pools, the beaching. Factor meals are going to arrive fresh and ready to eat, and that's perfect for any lifestyle. And you've got a ton of great options, 45 different weekly menu options. You can pick from gourmet meals that fit your goals. How about Calorie Smart or Protein Plus or Keto and a lot more? Factor also has everything you need for breakfast or on-the-go lunches. They've even got the premium dinners that we've been bragging about, but maybe most famously, the guilt-free snacks and desserts. I say that because it's kind of a sneaky thing. Like some of the juices that you see on the image there, if you're watching with us at myworldpod.com, whenever we order, sometimes they'll just throw us a little bonus, and we wind up with some of those cold-pressed juices. I mean, my wife and I have to thumb wrestle. This stuff is so good. It really does feel premium. Sometimes, listen, if you've tried some of the different meal delivery services, you try it and you think, hey, man, that's not bad for a change. Listen, that's husband speak for a wife who worked hard cooking, and Lord bless her heart, it just wasn't very good. We all say, honey, that was good for a change, a.k.a. never make it again, please, mercifully. We have never said that about Factor. Dude, every time we have it, we're always kind of surprised, like, man, is it just me, or is it a surprise it's that good every time? Because, listen, I know what you're thinking. We're all predisposed to thinking, well, if I didn't make it from scratch and it can't be good, it's just reheated. No, it's not. Dude, this is the next level. This is, this is stuff that sometimes feels too fancy to even think you would cook it at home. But when you think, well, they shipped it to me and I reheated it, how good can it be? That's stinking thinking. This is going to exceed all your expectations. This is 10 out of 10. This is a go-to. I've never recommended Factor to somebody who didn't love it. I probably shouldn't say their names, but I know of at least 24 wrestlers who use Factor specifically for when they're wrestling on the road. Because instead of having to do all that field prepping or meal prepping before they get out in the field and they leave their house, they leave the house boxed up and iced up, ready to rock with Factor. This thing has changed the way wrestlers eat. It's going to change the way you eat. Go get started right now at factormeals.com/myworld50off. We want you to use our code MyWorld50off. And when you do, that'll get you 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. One more time, the code is MyWorld50off at factormeals.com/MyWorld50off. And you'll get 50% off plus free shipping. Jeff, I know we're bragging about Factor a lot, but the wrestling business owes a debt of gratitude to Factor, do they not?
There's no doubt. I was just sitting there thinking, back in the day, you kind of, when you went out on the road, you maybe iced down a cooler, but for adult beverages. But now you have your bag and you have your travel bag and you have a travel food bag. And Factor, it's everybody's go-to. Yeah. And I can tell you this, in my house, the kids come over or stop by. Hey, Dad, can I grab a few meals? Yes. So we have a standing massive order, gets to our house every Tuesday. And I can assure you the first to go are the salmon and the chicken. I'm a steak guy, but it's all great. I love little energy bites. I could go on and on about it. The girls take the juices before I ever have one bit of it. But yes, every Tuesday, my Factor is delivered to the house, a big old box full, and it is without a doubt a game changer for old Double J himself to get my, as Steiner used to say, kid, you got to eat to get my protein in. Factor is the go-to.
Go check it out, factormeals.com/myworld50off. Use our promo code myworld50off. Try the shrimp, try the chicken. I'm telling you, it's fantastic. Hey, let's talk a little bit about the pay-per-view. We are going to talk about the AEW pay-per-view. I think it's over. Ask a Bum is with us here live, though, and he's got a question that I know is going to tickle you before we talk about the pay-per-view. He wants to know, Jeff, how much of your gimmick is based on the Honky Tonk Man? Also, name the top 3 gimmicks that you could have had, but they went to somebody else. So we'll start with that. If you could go back in time and restart your career, and every gimmick that's ever been done in wrestling were made available to you. Now, you're still your same height. You're still your same weight. You can change, obviously, your facial hair and your hair color and all that. But you're going to slide into one of those other 3 gimmicks. So before we talk about Honky Tonk Man, is there a gimmick that when you saw it, you said to yourself, damn it, I wish I would have thought of that first? Does that exist?
Oh, I don't think name the top 3 gimmicks you wish you could have had. I don't think I would have wished any kind of gimmick. Like, I lived vicariously as a kid. I absolutely loved the Fabs, Stan Lane and Steve Kern, when they were real red hot. I was high school, and they were over like Rover and kicked ass. I really liked those guys. I was a Rock and Roll Express kind of guy as well. Fabulous Jackie Fargo back in the day. The King. Look, these are all kind of my childhood years, but when I got going in the business, we've talked about it over and over and over on this pod. But as far as like 3 gimmicks out there, I'm trying to have a little fun with one. Like, could you have seen me as, if we did cartoons back then, maybe, I don't know, Mantar? I don't know.
You'd have made a great if you were Jeff the Dumpster Jarrett.
Oh, Duke. Okay. All right.
What if you were the roadie? I could have been a great roadie.
Oh, I would have loved to have done. I've told Brian that a couple of times. That would have been fun to do. Very fun. Gosh.
No, serious business. I mean, obviously, would you have, in an alternate universe, would you have enjoyed being one half of the Hart Foundation? Like, what if, no disrespect to Jim the Anvil Neidhart, if it were you and Brett as a tag? Or maybe if you were the other rocker, it was you and Sean as a tag. Like, is there I understand that maybe it's hard to imagine you're going to step into.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would have loved to have been a tag with Sean. I mean, hell, he's one of the best, if not the best of all time. That would have been fun, what you just said. But when you just said that about, like, me and Owen weren't together that long, but if we would have, like, because we had both arrived at that point in our career as tag team wrestlers. I mean, as single wrestlers, in different journeys and all that. But man, if we could have gotten together, I'll say as kids, and really dialed into a tag team, both of our dads being promoters, and man, that would have been, damn, that'd been.
Imagine if you would have done that early in your career too. It would have meant in '97, you would have been a part of the Hart Foundation.
Yeah, I mean, there's
and the whole Canadian Stampede thing. You were already wearing the cowboy hats and the belt. I mean, it could have really worked.
Yeah, A lot of fun too. A lot of fun. Those tags with Owen were, I don't say nights off, but man, we just had instant chemistry and didn't have to overthink anything.
So, Ask a Bum's original question was, how much of your gimmick do you think is based on the honky tonk man? I'm sure you've heard this question before.
I think it from time to time he says I stole his guitar. Like truly, the Double J character was a country music singer. So none, unless Vince had it in his mind, but there was none of the honky tonk man. His character and his persona had to do with Double J, the greatest country, greatest singer, greatest entertainer, greatest wrestler. There was no, and I'm saying this seriously, there was none of the Double J persona was taken from the honky tonk man.
So, listen, I know people are going to say, well, yeah, but he had a guitar and you had a guitar. But I think that's where the similarities end. But I don't know if you saw, but friend of the show, Mike Bennett, who has been around wrestling for a while. Of course, he was a part of the Ring of Honor crew and then a part of the AEW crew. I guess he just revealed on social media that he's going to be trying his hand at country music. So not as I don't believe as a wrestling gimmick, but he really wants to be a country musician. What do you think of that?
I would, man, Mike, go for it, buddy. Follow your dreams, follow your passions. Come to town. You're not going to make it in country music if you don't break in here. I say that. And look, other guys you can come up with a story here and there, but at the end of the day, it all runs through Nashville. It just does. Man, that's very cool to hear. Go get him, Mike. Wish you nothing.
Some more fun questions coming in. We want to hit some of these before we jump into talking a little pay-per-view over the weekend. Michael Collins is with us here live, and he wants to know who's the best example of a natural baby face you have ever met, Jeff, and who is the best example of a natural heel. So who's the best natural baby and who's the best natural heel, Jeff?
When I just looked at natural heel, look, I think Kurt Hennig had a sense of arrogance that the whole world, Vince just dialed into that in the whole Mr. Perfect. I thought Kurt was a hell of a heel. I think Lawler, when he didn't have to, and that's, I was taught at a very day one age that, the people who get over or the most successful, you're really just playing an extension of your personality in so many ways. And Lawler just had that arrogant prick about him. So when Lawler channeled his heel, he was great. His son, Brian Lawler, my God, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. Brian was, when he turned it up as a heel, very natural. But to me, Kurt has always been a guy that natural heel, natural baby face. Man, we'll get kind of back topical in a way here. And look, I know that they always had the chance, let's go Cena sucks. But when John
Cena, yeah.
When John was really rocking and rolling, what a baby face. His promos, he really made you feel with his promos and emotions. I told him one night in Gorilla that I'm like, dude, he came out of the ring and had a promo, and I don't remember that. And I'm just like, man, you may be the best to ever do it because you make the audience feel, and that is so on point. Lawler in his day, hell, you got to give credit where credit's due. I think the biggest reason Hogan got over as a monster heel in the NWO, and timing was everything, is because at one time, for the era, for the late 80s, say your prayers, take your vitamins, everything, Hulk Hogan was he really channeled, and legendary. His merch sales, you just kind of think, and I know timings and all that, so that true baby face, there's multiple out there. Stone Cold, a guy that is essentially makes the world take this job and shove it. Everybody feels that, and that is And you say, oh, shit, he did this and he did that, and he's a beer drinking and cussing and this and that. But, man, the essence of a babyface is when the whole building is emotionally connected to you and wants to see you win. People wanted to see Steve kill Vince McMahon. It was a great story, and that was a true babyface. Man, I could talk about this forever.
We got to have a fun follow-up question from Brandon Kuhn here, because he wants to know, Jeff, could you have done the Godfather's pimp gimmick? What about that? Could we have seen Jeff Jarrett as a pimp?
Brandon, I've done a couple of different, in rings. I did Double J MMA, and people didn't think I could pull that off. But I think with the right hat, the right cane, yeah, Connie, I think I could have done it. Don't you? I mean, all I would have to do is just look. Yes.
I mean, listen, if you can put them in figure fours and you can hit them over the head with guitars,
No
I think
doubt.
you can act as their agent and collect a commission.
No doubt. Easy.
It does feel like Jeff Jarrett, if you had a different upbringing, instead of becoming a more traditional entrepreneur, I mean, you could have. I'm just saying. Mr. Epic says, do you think these longer pay-per-view / PLE times are killing interest in the product? As a lifelong fan, I have a hard time sitting down and watching a 5-hour pay-per-view. I bring this up to you, Jeff, because I do feel like we're going to be forced to make some unfair comparisons. WWE does not have pay-per-views. So although Mr. Epic is sort of lumping them in together, saying pay-per-view / PLE, I do think that is a real differentiator we should discuss. WWE these days seems to be putting 5 matches on their pay-per-views, I just did it there. It's a premium live event. It's not a pay-per-view, but it's 5 matches, and it's going to go under 3 hours. And it feels like AEW is looking at doing a 4-hour plus pay-per-view. So WWE is including their PLEs as a part of a Peacock or Netflix subscription for, $5 or $10 a month, and you get everything else. AEW is asking you to do something differently. AEW wants you to go to Triller TV and order the pay-per-view for $40 or $50 or $60 or whatever it is. So I do feel like if I'm Tony Khan, I probably understand that I don't really have a comparable. I know TNA and New Japan and AAA and GCW. I know a lot of them have pay-per-views, but WWE doesn't. So if you're going to ask people to pay more than they would pay for a WWE show, you probably feel like you need to give them a lot of value. Just overwhelm them with value. An example would be give them $100 worth of value and then ask $50 for it. That feels like what AEW finds themselves kind of forced to do because WWE's out of the pay-per-view business. That's my reading. How do you read it?
Spot on. The thing that, in the last couple of weeks, I'll call it the hockey playoffs and the basketball playoffs. And this may not be the best analogy, but maybe during the NFL season, sorry for our overseas fans, but, here in Nashville, Central Time, you have your noon game and your 3 game or 3:30 game. And during the regular season, Conrad, it's amazing how every game is right at 3 hours, 3 hours, 10 minutes, 3 hours, 15 minutes, because it is a TV show and they got to keep the refs got to keep the game going, and they're hitting commercial breaks. And it's amazing how when you look at it through that lens, hey guys, this is nothing more, nothing less than a 3.5 hour TV show. Oh, when you get to the Super Bowl or even the playoffs, the games will get a little bit longer. And the Super Bowl is a 4.5 hour extravaganza. It's longer halftime, longer breaks, more commercial breaks. They're making more money. Playoffs, sportings, I'm not going to say it's just completely blown out of the water, but I think you have to kind of give a little tip of the cat there to it, in that, Dynamite's 2 hours, Collision's 2 hours. When you get to a PLE or a pay-per-view, what you just said, you completely differentiated it, that it's 2 different products and 2 different mindsets. We are asking the consumer, we being AEW, to, make the transaction of $50-$60. And so it's almost a no-brainer, Conrad, that you have to over deliver. Now, we can get into the subjective part that, hey, what is that sweet spot? For years, I mean, for years, we'll take out the in your house because those were originally, 2 hours, then that went to 3 hours. But a pay-per-view was a 3-hour block. That's just what it was. Maybe that was because it was like an NFL game or the pay-per-view systems. But then as time's gone on in the streaming world and things have kind of gone out, it went from 3 to 4, and then you kind of throw in a pre-show, things getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Times have changed. I'll say that at TNA on a house show, I just kind of had it a mandate that, hey guys, we're going to get this show done in 2 hours and 45 minutes tops, because you have a night out and people have to emotionally invest, and I want them coming back the next time. And so I factored in, if the show starts at 7:30, let's say it's got to be over by 10:15. Well, then you kind of add an hour or maybe even 2 for the people to get home, and kids got to get up, especially if it's a school night or whatever it may be. So you have to kind of have a balance and think through about your consumer for repeat business. Now we continually get into, well, that rule's thrown out and this circumstance is thrown out. Well, now that's when we're getting into the 4-hour plus pay-per-views. So I always use the best barometer. The people in the house for Ospreay and Hangman Sunday night, they were with every move, and those guys tore the house down, and that is including following Anarchy in the Arena. So everybody has a different taste for how long the pay-per-views are. I think the audience would tell you what they like and don't like. And so the ones that don't like it are going to be vocal, and the ones that do like it are going to probably keep their mouth shut and not even really, it comes into their mindset. So it's a balancing act, and it is subjective.
I will say this, and I know I'm probably in the minority, but I do wonder, when people complain about the length of a pay-per-view, would they do that if it was in the afternoon? I think a lot of times when people are griping, it's because, oh, it's getting late and I got to get up early tomorrow and that sort of thing. I I know that it wasn't the original plan, but I kind of like the idea that All In is now a Saturday afternoon pay-per-view,
I
because
love
now you've kind of got your Saturday night back, and even if it goes a little later, I don't know, we'll see, but I think it represents an opportunity. We mentioned the AEW pay-per-view. It was this past weekend. They always over-deliver. This was
always.
no exception. And to your point, after you've seen literally everything, I mean, literally everything under the sun on this pay-per-view, the main event, the fans were still into it. As
Right.
you and I are recording, we've not yet heard from Dave Meltzer. I know you and I side texted. Dave's going to love that match. He's going to give it 6 stars or more, I'm sure, on a scale of 5. But you've said before that you think Will Ospreay is one of the absolute best wrestlers in the world. You've said that about Bryan Danielson. You've said it about Kenny Omega. But you've also said that you feel like some of the best chemistry you've had, maybe chemistry that even caught you off guard, was Hangman Adam Page. And when we sort of made a list a few months back about your Mount Rushmore of opponents, of course you listed Shawn Michaels, and everybody points to In Your House too. Of course you listed Kurt Angle. I don't think anybody who's followed your career would be necessarily surprised with those picks. But I was kind of surprised to hear, and again, I wasn't there. You feel like the chemistry you had with Hangman Adam Page was up there. It's probably one of the better, maybe the most chemistry you've had with anyone in AEW. And he finds himself in the main event. Now, last week, we made our predictions, and I said, hey, man, I got Hangman Adam Page. And you went the other way and said you felt like Will Ospreay was going to get the dub. Were you surprised over the weekend that Hangman Adam Page left victorious? He's now going to challenge Jon Moxley at All In, having won the Owen Hart Memorial Cup, something that I know is near and dear to your heart. You named him and claimed it earlier this year in January. You had re-signed with AEW. You wanted a world title shot. This is a guy you had all that chemistry with in the tournament, named after your favorite tag team partner. We've already talked about him today, Owen Hart. We heard last year how much that tournament meant to you. And now Hangman Adam Page is in the spot that, man, in January you were probably hoping would be your spot. Was it bittersweet? What'd you think watching Hanger get his hand raised against Will Ospreay?
Well, I got to say, from a very personal, and Conrad, Sunday, I did the basically the VIP kind of meet and greet for the All In event. Shivani, and there were others, but I kicked it off, and a question came up. I want to say my favorite opponent, I think in AEW, whatever it may be, but anyway, the Hangman subject got up, and look, the Owen match, in the Owen tournament match last year, I think most people will kind of instantly go to that, but the one that to me, that as I look back on, and look, we got to do the interaction and being the Gauntlet Battle Royal in Wembley Stadium. That is an all-time memory for me. But the match in Arthur Ashe Stadium that was on Collision, that was done late in the night, Conrad, and to me, a pay-per-view, going 3, 4, 4.5 plus, it can be a challenge to go on late. I think it's even more of a challenge when you do a Dynamite Live and a Collision taping afterwards, because the audience can be fatigued. But me and Hanger went out there in that lumberjack strap match, and hell, that's the match I jumped off the top rope. But there's just something about that chemistry that I enjoyed. And look, and I've talked about it a little bit or a lot on this podcast. I'm a huge Larry Bird fan, and there's different players through the years, but the one thing that is tried and true, and Larry Bird's a great trash talker and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, he made everybody better on the floor, period. Even his opponents, because his opponents had to play better or he would absolutely skunk them. I think Hangman has that aura and that charisma and that, candidly, that talent. And so me and RJ and Renee sat down earlier in the month and we talked about it, and all three of us kind of flip-flopped on who was going to win. Then during the buy-in, we talked about it. I kind of still went with Will, because I do believe Will's time's coming. But as I sit here today during this recording, in a lot of ways, I love the outcome for multiple reasons. To talk on Will, he still has this mountain to climb. And when he does, it's going to be really sweet. And the picture of him walking in the O2 in London at Forbidden Door as the champion was a vision that I absolutely could see. But as it stands now, it's not going to happen. But the vision of the Hangman walking the aisle in Texas with his cowboy shit, I can't tell you how much I'm going to be pulling for that guy, because he's worked his ass off. Man, when you kind of know his journey and his story, both in and out of the ring, he's a man's man, and he will bust his ass. And what is best for business, I truly believe, is when he kicks Moxley's ass and stands tall and is the AEW World Champion once again.
Sign me up for it. I'm looking forward to it. Starcast is happening that weekend too. Bracelets are on sale now. It's STARRCAST.com. I know we haven't announced any panels and talent, but that all changes this week. Buckle up, Buttercup. We've got some big names, and we've got a really fun lineup. You don't want to miss it. It's a whole celebration all week long. They're doing a live Dynamite on Wednesday, a live Collision on Thursday, a Ring of Honor pay-per-view, and Starcast on Friday, and then Starcast before and after All In on Saturday. It's more wrestling than you can shake a stick at, Wednesday through Saturday. And, of course, WWE has counter-programmed all of it. I'm sure it's just a crazy coincidence. There were lots of fun suggestions about alternate gimmicks for you, Jeff, in our live chat a few minutes ago. I don't know that you were monitoring that, but, man, our live studio audience came up with some cool ones.
I got to hear
it. Crow Jarrett. I don't know why, but you in the Crow Sting paint would be fun. How about Jeff Jarrett DDS if you were a dentist? Maybe they put you in the clown makeup. Big Van Jarrett. I don't know why that tickled me, but it did. They said Big Daddy Cool Jeff Jarrett, but maybe Medium Daddy Cool. I don't know. I think it could be a lot of fun. That's probably the word I would use to describe anarchy in the arena this past weekend. This was a match where you saw literally everything. Dudes coming back to the ring in an ambulance. Dudes coming back to the ring on a forklift. moonsaulting off of the arena. And then how about the entire crowd singing a Drowning Pool song, Let the Bodies Hit the Floor? I mean, people are getting their ass whipped to a soundtrack here, Jeff. What'd you think of Anarchy in the Arena? In an alternate universe, this feels like it could have been a TNA pay-per-view main event. You guys had some crazy gimmicks through the years in TNA. This feels like something you would have loved way back when.
And, look, I love that shot right there. Swerve coming off a forklift and doing the double stomp on the Bucks in their outfit. Like, this image, and folks, if you're not tuned into the My World and get to see the video version, you are missing something out. So subscribe now, join us when you can. But there's a beautiful image. You would not actually say you would say, is that from like an action movie? Or
yes.
It doesn't look necessarily like a wrestling show, but Conrad, like you just said, at TNA and even at USWA, and we've kind of taken some licks through the years of too much Memphis or too much that, and Ravens. I saw another comment in there, Conrad. We'll talk about it. Are we ever going to do a topic again? Well, if Jeff and Conrad can shut our mouth and dial in, but we're having fun talking about this. But the Anarchy in the Arena with the music and the soundtracks piping in, to me, the vibe of the match gets bigger and bigger and bigger through the years. But I loved all of it. I love the forklift. I love the exploding shoes and tables and the backstage and the ambulance and the violence. And yeah, there's Marina stapling Swerve's mouth. And look, it is hardcore violence, if you will. It is maybe not for everybody, but it is professional wrestling. And you're not going to go back in time. And again, it isn't for everybody, but that soundtrack. And Conrad, was New Jack the first guy you heard of a music playing during their matches? For whatever, it jumps off the page, but I think that was taken with high criticism and different kind of takes on it. But again, at the end of the day, old Vinnie Mac's term, sports entertainment, professional wrestling. What is professional wrestling? It continues to evolve from the Hackenschmidt to the Thez years and on and on and on. Business will continue to evolve. And you just kind of look at the spectacle that took place. And hell, that was over 30 minutes, I believe. And that is something that if you looked at the fans in the arena, it had a combination of freak show, horror show, sing-along, brutal violence, entertaining, lots of different moving parts, males, females. It's professional wrestling.
Professional wrestling it is, and it was a fun match. I was friends with some folks who were fortunate enough to see the show in person, and man, all I heard from everyone who was there is what a wild, chaotic. I mean, they were describing Anarchy in the Arena as something they'd never experienced before the wrestling show. So, mission accomplished. Another successful one in the books. All In's going to be here before you know it. Jeff, what are you looking forward to next in wrestling? Like, I know that you and I are working on some things that we definitely can't talk about on the stream right now, but as far as your future in the wrestling business, like what are your goals and aspirations within the confines of AEW? I know that we recently saw, some backstage skits with you and Jay Lethal and the rest of the crew. What can we expect from Double J and company in the coming weeks in AEW?
I didn't know where you were going with that, Conrad. So we're just talking about AEW, we'll call it in ring, because I really think some of the stuff we're working on and outside of that, I get supercharged, Conrad. Karen noticed it too. She literally noticed it the other day, and she's like, "Just look at you, like you do realize you hadn't come up from air today." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She goes, you have been dialed in, call, email. And I hear you, the excitement in your voice, and that it charges me because again, the business is evolving in so many different ways. So I am supercharged as it relates to AEW. I'll say this, Conrad, out of complete sincerity, at this stage in my career, and next year is going to be the big 4-0, Conrad, April of 86. So April of 2026 will be 40 years. But so I've learned through trial and experience and everything that goes with it. Not just as timing is everything, but you got to pick your strategic spots. I've had a conversation with Jay Lethal. I've had a conversation with Sanjay, met with some resistance in a couple of different ways. I shared with Satnam. He's still in that learning, but I did tell Karen. She asked me a few questions. She said, I'll leave that to you. Conrad, I am waiting my time in more ways than one, and you can read into that whatever you want to read into that. But I am biding my time, looking at the landscape, and I am going to pick the appropriate time to turn some heads.
I can't wait to see what's next for you on screen. And I know that we're live, so we should be careful with what we say here. But are you surprised as many Zooms and conference calls and emails and late night international calls that you and I have done in the last 3 weeks? Are you surprised that none of that has leaked?
No, I'm not surprised. I just think that oh boy, the way you're grinning, I don't know what that means.
Well, it just feels like for sure. I mean, listen, we all saw some reports mysteriously start appearing last week, and I think a lot of people were sort of side eyeing, looking around the room like, "Hey, what's going on here?" And I don't know. It just tickles me that when people say there can be no secrets in wrestling, we've managed to keep one.
You can, yes, you can. You absolutely can, and I think it's the healthy part of the business. I do. I truly think it's the healthy part of the business. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I could go off into a rabbit hole and oh Lord, Conrad, let's move on, pal.
What does the Queen say about what's got you buzzing? I know why you're buzzing. The same reason I'm buzzing. She's seen you, operate at this higher frequency before. Is she nervous, anxious, excited? What's she think about you're buzzing right now?
So you know what? So she never really, and I'm not saying she should have understood or even cared to understand, but there's something about a mindset. Oh, I have to do this. I have this call. I have this. Have to get to. Oh, I get to have this call. I get to do this, and also, I think it goes into the kind of the DNA that when I'm more dialed in, hey, honey, I'm going to make sure I'm in bed at this time because when my alarm goes off, I'm going to hit the ground running and I've got A, B, and C to do. And I like to say, I like to, and they've done all kind of studies on this, Conrad, about the amount of productivity you can have in a single work day. And is it 3.5? Is it 4.5? Is it 5.5 hours? I think that's up for debate, but she has seen kind of my internal clock buzzing, and she's like, I didn't really know what you really meant by your ticker is going. And it's one thing, the gravitational pull is what I'm trying to say. She sees you're getting pulled in these directions. You're not looking at it as you have to go do this. It's like you're there and want to do this. Anyway, I'm probably not making sense, but she can see it, and it makes her excited. It really does. She loves to see it like this. She does.
I can't wait to see what's next on and off camera for Double J, but I know that next week we're going to be getting back into our regular routine. We won't have to recap a Saturday Night Main Event. We won't have to recap an AEW pay-per-view. And I don't think they're going to move WrestleMania again next week, but hell, what do I know? We'll wait and see. Next week, we're going to be talking about Hardcore Justice 2005. Are you excited? We're getting back on track. We've got a topic next week.
Topic, and I'm going to touch on the comment in a minute. That topic, though, Hard Justice, it's got Fox Sports, it's got Spike, it's got Tito Ortiz, it's got Dusty. It's got a Ravens House, it's got Punk Talk. when we come out with this show, it's going to be a lot of fun because in a lot of ways, I say this with all diplomacy. I don't think our inner circle, being the Carters, the Jarretts, some creative Dave, and I get it. He had to, I'm not knocking him, but he had to fabricate some stuff to create news because he was so off base because he didn't really know what was going on between the transition between Fox Sports and Spike. And he went off on this tangent on WGN. I don't want to get too far into it, but Conrad, it's going to be a really fun topic that the fabrication of his stories are pretty obvious. But with that being said, do you see in the comments at 12:39 Central Time, James, tell James it's me, James from Kentucky from WCW Live back in the day. Do you remember James, the chicken plucker, Conrad?
I don't even know what you're talking about right now, Jeff.
You don't? Okay, so there was a famous caller, and James, if this is really you, if it's not you, I'm not going to be happy, but it was Bob Ryder, Jeremy Borash. If JB is listening to this, there was a disco. I'm trying to think Conan. I'm just trying to think of the regulars on WCW Live, but there was it was audio only, but you did call-ins, and there was a gentleman by the name of James. And James, Bix is, oh my gosh. So Bix knows about James from Kentucky. This is fun, man. James from Kentucky. Oh my God. He's a Zerber Live caller. Anyway, I'm reading the comments. But anyway, he worked in I believe Bob Ryder called him James the Chicken Plucker, and James just said it's me. So Conrad, we have a very, very special guest in the comments today. So this podcast, today's version, has been a blast. Oh my gosh, Conrad, I don't know what to say. Coach and Raj and all kind of folks. So I don't even know what to say. Conrad, you're
all right, guys. A guy from WCW Live showed up, and we're pumped about it. We'll see you next week right here on My World.